What types of subjects do you wish you knew more about? Do you feel like if you were afforded the time that you have the ability and capacity to learn all of the things that you would want to know about? I am Tavish Carduff. It is Ignorance Week, and this is just the tip of the iceberg of what is possible when we focus on the pillar of ignorance. Ignorance itself is simply not knowing. I'm going to take a deep breath here because we really spend a lot of time placing expectations around the ignorance of other people. Instead of looking at ignorance as an opportunity for learning, we use it as a vehicle for shame and blame, reasons to set ourselves up with expectations for others that may or may not actually be fair. The pillar of ignorance teaches us to remove our anticipated expectations and to instead look for something new and different in the place of what we're used to encountering when we run into something where we expect someone to know something that they don't know. This can happen with a complete stranger. This can happen in your own relationship and in your own family. In fact, the more you pay attention to how often it happens, the more you will see it crop up over and over and be able to see it with the space to breathe rather than turning it into a trigger that sends the entire situation into further chaos by our just inability to step back, breathe, and understand that we all come from a vantage point of different knowledge and that we each have a different set and subset of knowledge that fits our lives specifically. When we remember that the pillar of ignorance affords us an opportunity to learn, then we open up this expansive space where we have an actual exchange of information. We actually gain understanding. This week's practical guidance involves breathing when we encounter ignorance. What that means in real terms is that when we find ourselves asking the question why over and over again, why did someone do something that we don't understand? If we can't ask the question and the answer isn't readily available, let's take the opportunity to create a backstory. Just dream it up, use your creativity, and imagine a plausible, possible reason for why the thing happened that is before you. It may not be accurate, but what it does is allow you the space to breathe and take in something that lets you move on. It skips you past the sticking point. And in Ignorance Week, that is the best that we can do when we encounter someone or something that we can't affect through our conversation or with our ability to make them understand what we're trying to say or our ability to understand what they are trying to say. Ignorance Week and the pillar of ignorance shows us over and over how easy it is to take on the knowledge that we didn't have prior to encountering it. Ignorance itself has no intention. It just exists purely and wholly as reality. When we get involved with how we think, see, and feel the way that a thing should be, that's when we go a little awry, and that's when we disassociate from the situation and even go as far as to assume that the other people or person involved in the situation knows less than we do. This is a grave error that we make as human beings, and it stops us from understanding what's in front of us, and it stops us from creating bridges where we can learn and grow from the experience of each other. Instead, we find ourselves in a position of not trusting anything that isn't similar to what we know. What that does is remove us from the ability to know all kinds of things that are outside the realm of what we encounter in our own day-to-day space. Ignorance is opportunity, and we can see it that way instead of looking at it as a tool to use against others or to protect ourselves. We find ourselves open and available to more information than we could possibly take in. We see it opening possibilities within our brain from an increasingly vast vantage point. As we reach new summits of our own knowledge, we can look around and see that everyone else does the same thing every day. That old adage, we learn something new every day. Pay attention to how many new things you actually learn in a day. The value of that alone will help you see your life differently. Understanding the makeup of our physical body, recognizing that where we come up against ignorance is where we create these emotional, energetic blocks in our physical being. Breathing is the way through this, and breathing leads us to understanding and acceptance of the things that we don't yet understand. I will be here next week as we begin to explore the middle pillars, starting with emotion and ending in conflict. Thank you for joining me. You can find us on our website, ourrawmaterial.com, and occasionally we show up on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great week. Seek knowledge. Thank you.